Hola amigos, antes de comenzar con el extraordinario video de a continuación de un excavo de infantería de los marinos de Estados Unidos estacionado en Da Nang en Vietnam, quiero presentarles el nuevo blog que estamos aquí publicando para todos ustedes, que trata pues simple y sencillamente de todos nuestros videos pero más organizado. Yo ya había tenido un blog donde traducía puramente escritos, no estábamos en YouTube en ese entonces, era el portal de Bligo, alojado en Chile, que cerraron desde el servidor chileno y todo nuestro trabajo pues prácticamente naufragó. Afortunadamente tenía muchos artículos guardados y el libro de Fritz Springmeier, Linajes de los Illuminati, fue rescatado y de hecho ya lo tenían publicado otros portales en escrito y bueno, agradezco que no se haya perdido nada de ese trabajo. Y esos trabajos ahora están en Patreon, donde desde $1 al mes pueden acceder al contenido. Este portal, como pueden ver, está muy organizado y vienen todos nuestros videos. Aquí pueden ir y buscarlos por etiquetas. Ya ven que es más fácil. Aquí el etiquetado está, por ejemplo, David Icke, los videos del control social, de Fritz Springmeier específicamente, de Len Kasten, el libro del limonero millonario, el tema de ovnis, de Steve Quayle, sobrenatural y ocultismo, y así por etiquetas. No he terminado de subir todos los videos, faltan muchos, pero las etiquetas se mostrarán más. Aquí viene de Tom Horn también. Vamos a oprimir el de Len Kasten, nos va a redireccionar hacia Len Kasten y los videos que estamos subiendo, incluyendo el libro de Nuevo Orden Mundial Alien. Estos videos que están aquí son los de Flota Oscura. Los de Flota Oscura, que es el nuevo y el último libro de Len Kasten, que no alcanzaron a estar en el nuevo canal de YouTube, ni tampoco, creo que sí lo subí a Facebook, pero bueno, están en Facebook, pero aquí los tenemos ya organizados, ¿no? Aquí están los primeros, las entrevistas, y estaré subiendo los que, como se han ido publicando. Repito, no he terminado de subirlos y nos faltan muchos videos por subir, pero aquí pueden ir y encontrar todos los videos organizados y archivados. Y obviamente también estamos en Patreon con el contenido extra. Lo de Patreon no está aquí. Bueno, sin más, agradezco el apoyo, agradezco como siempre a los patrocinadores y los dejo con este video que realmente es perturbador y a la vez no sé cómo describirlo, pero si yo lo tuviera que describir personalmente diría que es algo extraño. Y hasta ahí lo dejaría. No lo dejaría en maligno por las cuestiones dudosas que me hacen creer que no es maligno. Puede ser un ser del error, un ser del engaño, o puede ser algo celestial. No lo sé, pero realmente es extraño todo esto que narra el ex-marín cabo de infantería estacionado en Da Nang en el periodo convulso entre el conflicto bélico entre el país de las barras y las estrellas y los vietnamitas. Los dejo con este video y nos vemos en el próximo programa. Muchísimas gracias.
In October of 1968, I was ordered to report to Vietnam, and I was attached to the 3rd Marine Amphibious Force. I was a Lance Corporal at the time, and I was located just across the Da Nang River in northern part of Vietnam, and I was there for 13 months.
How many Marines from the U.S. were there?
I have no idea. Vietnam was divided into 1 Corps, 2 Corps, 3 Corps, and 4 Corps. The Army was down, I think, in 2, 3, and 4, down near Saigon and Bayan Chulai and all those places. And the Marines were up in I Corps, up near the DMZ, in Quang Tri and Da Nang and Freedom Hill. That was all Marine. It was just thousands of us.
Would you please unfold the high strangeness event that took place?
It was your own description about your experience in Boston that propelled me to even reach out and contact you about this. I was very moved and deeply touched by that, and I resonated completely with that. So I was assigned to guard duty one evening. I believe it was in January of 1969. I was assigned to a post with 2 other Marines, and we were positioned overlooking the nearby chopper pad where helicopters landed, and we were in front of a large bunker It was a combination of above ground and below ground, covered with sandbags. And we were sitting in front of this bunker one night. It was the middle of the night. And because we were in a war zone, we were in a place of palpable fear, of death, of children waking up in the middle of the night with napalm being dropped on them. We were in a very strange place. I was a Polish Catholic boy from Indiana who was raised on Catholicism. I found myself suddenly immersed in a Buddhist culture. I was trying to make sense of it all. So my fellow Marines who were with me that night, we were in a discussion about things like the nature of good and evil, what is reality. You're just trying to piece it all together in your mind so you can survive that war. And I think we were probably contemplating out loud just questions about the nature of good and evil. What is that all about? Whatever it was that we were discussing at that moment, I can't help but feel that we somehow, by our conversation, triggered what happened next. And what happened next was beyond my ability to understand completely. I've tried. All of a sudden, the three of us noticed this huge dark mass that was almost indescribable. It was more like congealed darkness. It was nighttime, and yet this shape, it was as big probably as a Greyhound bus. It was a huge dark shape, darker than dark. And it suddenly just moved around our right side in kind of a flash. In the wink of an eye, it just moved swiftly around us and into the bunker behind us. And all three of us instinctively jumped up, three Marines with M16 rifles locked and loaded, and suddenly we're on our feet. And we all looked at each other with the same expression on our face. What the hell was that? And all of a sudden, from out of the bunker, it felt like this coldness. These hands were creeping up my spine. All of us were feeling this. It was an unspeakable fear, an unspeakable horror that was creeping up my body, slowly creeping up my spine. It had a grip on my spine, and I felt like I was going to die. And none of us knew how to respond to this.
What were you saying to each other?
Well, I heard moans. I heard, "Oh my God." I heard one of my fellow Marines almost burst into tears. He was so overwhelmed by it. I felt this fear crawling up my back, and I tried to think of every positive thought I could muster at that moment to try to counteract this fear that was creeping up my body. It was like I was going to die, and it was just consuming me. And I could feel my body getting cold, and I could feel this grip. I just fought it, and I fought it, because I thought, I can't let this happen. And like almost all the accounts that I've heard on your program, people will remark that once they stopped fighting, once they stopped resisting, it all changed. And that's exactly what happened to me. I finally realized that resistance was futile, and I just stopped fighting it. And within an instant, what was dark and creepy and frightening and horrible turned into this luminous, it was like the sun came out in the middle of the night. There was this luminosity that suddenly just took over. It showered us. I swear I could hear all the subatomic particles in the air around me, in the trees, in the grass. I could feel it in the sky. I could feel everything crackling like a static electricity. The air was crackling all around me, and I was in a heightened state of awareness. I've never been there before. I couldn't begin to describe that. I think one of my companions said he saw angels appear. I just felt this incredible warmth, this beautiful illumination. I stood there, and when we slowly regained our senses, we started talking. And because we were on the subject of deep thoughts and large concepts, we kind of continued on that track. And we would begin discussing among ourselves these very deep spiritual and psychological concepts.
What were you seeing in your mind's eye?
Eternity. I saw eternity.
What does that mean?
I felt I was looking at God. That was the only way I could describe it. It was like God was there. We were God. We were with God. It went from a demonic kind of experience to an angelic experience. And I just felt completely safe. I felt nothing but light. We were sharing a consciousness with something so much greater than ourselves.
And did the three of you talk about the suddenness of something changing from a black hulk that felt like it was going to kill you into blazing light? Did the three of you talk about it then?
Once we got liberated from that and were in an illuminated state, we were just in the moment. We were in that moment. And the moment was full of accessible information. It was full of love. It was full of light.
Did you three report this to a higher authority?
Oh, yes. We were summoned by both the base chaplain and our commanding officer who interrogated us about that evening's event. I wanted to know what was going on. I think they were trying to determine whether or not we were still sane enough to carry a weapon and remain in country, or if it was time to send us home, that we'd lost our minds. And it all happened in the same place at the same time for all three of us. Apparently, they determined that we were still sane enough to remain in country. We were interrogated. We caused quite a stir. And the really astonishing thing about the whole event was that it didn't just go away. This feeling that I had of being illuminated, it lasted for almost 2 weeks. And I was sleeping at night. I eventually ate meals. I performed my duties, and yet this feeling did not go away. It was a totally unique experience, and it was beyond intense, and I was forever changed by that. I have never been the same since that night in January in 1969.